setting him up to lead Democrats through the second Trump administration. Martin had been the leader of the Minnesota Democratic Party since 2011 and a vice chair of the DNC since 2017. In his campaign for chair, Martin emphasized his commitment to giving resources to Democratic state parties in blue, purple, and red states. After winning the race, he also acknowledged the potentially combative nature of the job, stating this: "I've always viewed my role as a chair of the Democratic Party to take the low road, so my candidates and elected officials can take the high road, meaning I'm going to throw a punch." DNC Chair Ken Martin joins us now. Today, he is kicking off his first official tour as chair, visiting Pennsylvania, Texas, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Missouri. Hopefully, he won't take a swing at us. Thank you, Ken, for being here this morning. We really appreciate it. So you were sitting a moment ago as we were getting ready for the segment. You said there were a lot of challenges ahead. You certainly have a big job ahead of you after what happened in November that has left a lot of Democrats and Democratic donors really despairing. Just start, what's job one?
Right now, it's first off, it's tour that we're kicking off today, actually, which I'm really excited about. When I ran, I said, we need to get the DNC out of D.C. And someone said, what do you mean? You're moving the headquarters from D.C.? No, it's a mindset change. It's really focusing back on the states, building a 57-state party strategy up and down the ballot, contesting every race in all 3,244 of our counties. We have to be organizing everywhere, which is, by the way, the name of this tour. We're going to be talking with voters, with union members, with farmers, door knocking for candidates, holding listening sessions throughout those red, purple, and blue states that we're visiting this week. We need to get the DNC out of D.C., out of the Beltway, reconnecting our message back with voters. That's job number one, right? So many parts of our coalition left us this last election cycle, right? We know that, from Latino voters to working class households to young voters to women. You can go down the list. The only two groups that we overperformed with in the last election cycle were wealthy households and college-educated voters. That's a damning indictment on the Democratic Party. We got to do a better job. So that's why we're getting out there to these states this week to reconnect our message to the voters.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rev.
And I'll check in a month to see if you feel happy that I congratulate you. But let me ask this. When you look at the fact that a lot of people complained that the Democrats were not punching back, that were not fighting, and that they were not feeling represented. When you say you're going to throw punches, which is welcomed by a lot of people that I talk to around the country, how do we throw punches that are effective without looking reckless at the same time and empower local candidates that may have to be throwing different punches?
Well, it's a great question. And let me say this. In 2016, someone said to me, the Republicans are shameless and the Democrats are spineless. The first thing we need to do is we need to stand up. If we're not willing to right now resist Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Elon Musk when the stakes are so high for the American people, how in the hell are anyone in this country going to believe that we would stand up and fight for them if they put us back in power? We have to resist. Now, we can't just live in that space of perpetual resistance. We need to very strenuously resist Donald Trump, and I'll get to that in a moment. But we also need to give people a sense of who we are as Democrats, what we believe in, and what we're fighting for. But as it pertains to the resistance, look at what Democratic attorney generals are doing, like my friend Keith Ellison from Minnesota, right? They're leading the charge right now and taking on Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Elon Musk through the courts, right? Our Democratic congressional members are using the power of their platform to move public sentiment against these cuts that we're seeing in the federal government right now. And it's local elected officials across the country right now who are giving hope to communities who are being ripped apart by this administration right now that they're going to be safe. Democrats are standing up. They're ready for this fight, and I'm happy to lead.
So, Mr. Chairman, on the idea of Donald Trump and what he's doing, we want to get your thoughts on a new poll from Marquette University Law School. It shows that some of Trump's policies, such as taking back the Panama Canal, pardoning January 6th defendants, and more, are seeing broad opposition. But others are finding some real support. 63% say they support the federal government only recognizing two sexes. 60% say they support deporting immigrants that are here illegally. And 59% say they favor declaring a national emergency due to migrant crossings at the southern border. Your fellow Democrat, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, was asked about that same poll yesterday. Let's all take a listen to his response.
Is there anything you are seeing that Trump is doing that you are in favor of, that you think is the right thing?
me say, as it relates to all of those issues, we're just at the beginning. And the core promise that Donald Trump made is that he's going to lower costs for everyday Americans. In fact, we were told that grocery prices would go down on day one, on January 20th. Costs aren't lower. In fact, costs are increasing. The price of eggs is skyrocketing out of control. Inflation is on the way up. That was the core promise that's been broken.
So, Mr. Chairman, how do you thread the needle? We heard from the minority leader there, certainly focusing on prices. Undeniably, prices have not gone down yet. But that poll suggests there is some real support for some of what Trump is doing and things that Democrats were really dinged for during the last election cycle, particularly on some cultural issues and immigration.
Well, what I would say is this: 66% of Americans believe that Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Elon Musk are not doing enough to actually bring down prices. That's really what's impacted the majority of Americans in this country right now. And that's where they want to see this administration put their focus. Instead of actually making it easier for people to afford their lives, what is Donald Trump focused on? He's focusing on annexing Canada. He's focusing on invading Panama. He's focusing on buying Greenland, right? He's focused on anything but actually helping the American people afford their lives at this moment. And that's where our focus needs to be. He said, and Leader Jeffries is absolutely right, he said he would bring down prices on day one. He backtracked on that, and now he's done nothing. He doesn't even talk about inflation right now. He's focused on everything but. We need an American president who's going to deliver on making it easier for people to afford their lives. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and J.D. Vance are not doing that at this point.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it's that you don't want to talk about the cultural issues that are in that poll, but 63% of Americans think that it's right that the government policy should be there, just have two sexes. Do you think U.S. government policy should be that there are just two sexes?
It's not up to me to decide what U.S. policy should be. But what I will tell you is that what people are focused on is their day-to-day lives, the kitchen table issues that impact their families. And that's where I think Democrats...
So you don't think there's anything in this poll that gives Democrats cause for concern about whether it was gender issues, whether it was immigration, that Donald Trump has something right and that Democrats got something wrong on where the American people are?
What I would say is this: we're going to participate in a post-election review to get at exactly this question, which is what happened in this last election that had big parts of our coalition move away from us. I don't know the answer to that right now, right? But what I will say is what I do know most Americans are focused on is what impacts their families at the kitchen table, right? And that's where we're going to be focused on. You know, I think there's going to be plenty of discussion on all of these issues, as there should be, right? But again, I think if you talk to Americans and you had them rank order those issues would be very close to the bottom.
We're in this election cycle. The transgender ad that the Trump campaign played over and over and over, it became their dominant ad September forward in the election. And you look at that poll and it does show that women in sports turned out to be a kitchen table issue. How does the DNC pass these hot button issues to reach common ground with the American people and not be out of the mainstream?
One of the challenges, I think, for the Democratic Party is we've allowed ourselves to message to smaller and smaller parts of our coalition. And as a result, we've lost the narrative, who we are as a Democratic Party, right? There's a poll that showed last spring, and it should have been the canary in the coal mine for all of us, that the perceptions of the two political parties has switched. That the Republicans, the majority of Americans now believe the Republicans best represent the interests of the working class and the poor, and the Democratic Party is a party of the wealthy and the elites. That is just hogwash, right? That's completely false. But the reality is for us, we need to focus on the narrative that connects all parts of our coalition, which is economics, right? Which is what I said earlier, the belief in the American dream, that you should be able to get ahead in life and achieve that dream and climb the economic ladder. That's how the Democratic Party gets back, by focusing on those issues, not at the expense of our values, by the way. We're always been the party that's focused on the working class and the poor. We have also been the party that's fought for the marginalized and the oppressed and people who are being bullied and harassed, and we'll continue to do that. But what I'm saying, for us as a party, we have to get back to basics. What unites all parts of our party is an economic success and the American dream.
We are, of course, only beginning this conversation. New chair of the Democratic National Committee,